So, what kinds of techniques are used in psychoanalysis? What kind of therapeutic means do people use to get to the unconscious? That's really the question that we have to ask. And one kind of therapeutic technique that is used is just creating that trusting relationship. In the creation of that trusting relationship, you want the client to be able to speak freely. And really, the meat of the therapeutic relationship in psychoanalysis, the meat of this relationship involves transference. So these are thoughts, feelings, fantasies, patterns of behavior that were repressed in childhood, that have been pushed into the unconscious. And these are these unacceptable matters as well that the client uh, puts on. Like the therapist has a certain mask of a mother or father or a sibling or whoever, and that the client acts in a certain way toward the therapist, like they were acting toward mother or father. And so what the therapist does is the therapist tries to help the clients to explain the origin of those thoughts, feelings, or patterns of behavior, or fantasies, as well as how do these thoughts and feelings play out in their other relationships. And so the therapist could ask questions like, who do I remind you of? And those kinds of questions to get to the unconscious material. So transference is really the meat of that relationship. Therapists also have to watch out for countertransference, which is that the therapist actually looks at the client as one of their family members. I remember in my experience when I first started doing addictions counseling, I had a very powerful experience with a client where I have a brother who has been incarcerated and who has been in a lot of trouble. And with a client, the client reminded me of my brother. So I was having reactions to the client and to that population, which were the same kind of reactions, thoughts, and feelings and patterns of behavior that I had toward my brother, and that could certainly be an impediment. So counselors are urged to get counseling so that you will be aware of your issues. So that transference and also that countertransference is major in creating that therapeutic relationship. Definitely the transference of the client. Also, we want clients to have free association. When clients just say whatever it is that comes to their mind in the psychoanalytic relationship, that they say the words that come to their mind, and when they get stopped at a word, that may indicate that they are at some anxiety provoking material, which also feeds into the other technique, which is resistance. When clients miss appointments, or when they come late, or when they may stop talking, that may be when they're close to some anxiety provoking material. Dreams are very prominent in psychoanalytic theory. The importance of dream in the manifest content, in the content that you see in a dream, and the latent content, which is the underlying meaning of a dream. So dreams are quite important because dreams speak to what is in the unconscious that is not in our awareness. Another aspect of the techniques used in Freud are the Freudian slips of the tongue. Everybody's heard about the Freudian slips. When a person misspeaks or jokes people may tell, it may show underlying desires or underlying instincts, underlying thoughts, feelings, patterns of behavior that are there. So you have to interpret transference as well, and those are part of the techniques involved in psychoanalysis. So in looking at these techniques, we see that they all lead to one purpose, which is getting at that unconscious material. Having clients to free associate helps to get to that unconscious material. Dealing with the transference in sessions of those thoughts, feelings, patterns of behavior, dealing with that in sessions, in those transference elements of the session, helps to get at that unconscious material. Dreams help us to get at that unconscious material. Wherever a client is resistant, missing appointments to find out what's going on, what's underneath all of that, because what we're looking at is their childhood as well as how their childhood is affecting their relationships today. Now, of course, Freud has had his criticism because he did not have big samples of people to choose from in order to test psychoanalytic theory. So many people say that Freud's theory is hypothetical. It's really a hypothetical theory that was not based on extensive amounts of research. So there's been much criticism about psychoanalysis concerning the amount of people who have been tested according to the theory of psychoanalysis. It's more of a qualitative theory, if anything. It is quite deterministic. It says that your childhood dictates your present day actions. So in conclusion, in discussing psychoanalysis, you just need to know about psychoanalysis. Psycho meaning the mind or soul, analysis, breaking down the parts of the personality, the id, ego, and superego, anxiety, which is the clash of the id, ego, and superego, and all of this anxiety that's going on. To protect the ego, we have our defense mechanisms. And we know that people go through certain psychosexual stages. Freud believed that people go through certain psychosexual stages at certain points in life, just from his observations of humanity. And some of the therapeutic techniques with it is always about getting to the unconscious.